Hello to anyone watching this. So it is finally 2025, the year that the Switch 2 has to be unveiled and hopefully released, and even though at time of recording that hasn't happened yet, you know, with all the various leaks that I've seen, whatever official reveal Nintendo has planned is pretty much just gonna come across as a plain confirmation of things. That is in terms of hardware. When it comes to software, we're still really in the dark. Like, apart from some rumours and educated guesses of various ports, there's really not a lot of concrete information about what games are coming to the Switch 2. Although there are some vague crumbs of evidence that can be followed, such as Sakurai in the last video on his YouTube channel stating that he is currently working on a game which is most likely going to be for the Switch 2, and you know, given that it's Sakurai and his general track record of game development, it's quite safe to assume that this is going to be the next Smash Bros game. Like, it could possibly not be, it could be the next Kid Icarus game, and that would be exciting, but you know, for the sake of this video just in general making sense, I'm going to just assume it's a Smash Bros game. So today I just wanted to talk about my general hopes and dreams for a brand new Smash Bros game, and why I hope that it's a upgraded version of Smash Ultimate rather than an entirely new Smash Bros game. Because, you know, while I would be interested to see where things would go and what sort of direction a brand new game would take, I still think there's so much that could be improved about Smash Ultimate that, you know, it's worth going back to and using that as a base to create an even better game rather than starting from scratch. The more contentious reason that I'd want a Smash Ultimate Special Edition is because it would most likely mean that the entire character roster would be able to come back. Like, you may have a couple fringe cases like Sora, where due to licensing issues he'd have to leave, and that's fair enough, but you know, you'd get pretty much everyone back, and I think that's a much better outcome than if a new game had to cut half of the roster, which, I'm sorry, I've just always utterly detested the idea of having to lose half of this cast. Like, as a little thought experiment, you know, thinking about who would truly make it as the All-Stars of the All-Stars, like, that's fair enough, but the fact that there's actual proponents and supporters of the idea of slicing the roster just doesn't make much sense to me. Because no matter what way you try and divide it, you'll inevitably end up losing more fan favourites than you keep, because yeah, characters like Yoshi and Kirby are beloved by more casual audiences, but characters like Lucina, Falco or Sheik, who are truly beloved by more dedicated players, would most likely not be able to stay, and at this point they've pretty much been able to carve out second lives apart from their own franchises through Smash, and you'd lose a lot of that charm in the roster if you had to half it. So I've just never liked the idea, and it just doesn't make much sense to me, especially because since we now know the Switch 2 is backwards compatible, at least for me, I'd rather go for a game with 90 characters than 45. Even if they fully rework Mario or Ganondorf's movesets to make them more modern and fresh, I just don't think that's worth losing anyone. Like, similar to Smash Ultimate's base game, if you just rework a few characters and make them feel more fresh and sacrifice having as many newcomers, I think that's the best way to go about it. So yeah, I just cannot understand why people want to lose characters rather than gain them. Like, sure, there might be balancing reasons, but Smash Ultimate did such a great job of making most characters feel like they're on the same level that I think they'd be able to manage a good dozen more, you know? Oh, and also, if you tried putting that dozen hypothetical newcomers onto the halved roster, I think they'd stick out a bit, because especially in terms of options for first party newcomers. At this point, there's not really that many big names left, you know, it's more so characters that people have always wanted to see added to Smash, which is the case with a lot of characters that would end up being cut. So, you know, it would just feel like 12 characters who wouldn't have made the jump if they were in Ultimate. So, you know, it feels like even more of a pointless exercise, to me at least. But anyway, that's hopefully the most negative I'm going to get in this video, so let's start properly talking about this Smash Ultimate Special Edition. Now, I've not really got a specific time or place that I'd like to see it announced or released, but I think if it was introduced with a "Everyone is back" trailer, I think you'd be able to fully generate the hype needed to justify this just being an upgraded version of Smash Ultimate, personally, because there is so much discussion about what the next game is going to be and if there's going to be cuts. To just be like, nope, no cuts, everyone's back, I think that would make a lot of people stunned in excitement. And then it can have pretty much the same hype cycle as Ultimate, where scattered throughout a year are newcomer trailers and directs that I do hope would be in the style of the Sakurai Presents videos, where it's like 20 minutes talking about a newcomer and then 10 to 15 minutes going through new features of the game. Like, I think that's the best way to handle it at this point, especially given how amazing all of those videos were. And then presumably for the holidays, the game would release and everyone would be happy. So let's start talking about the additions that I'd like to see in this game. Now, there have been a lot of other videos talking about this sort of thing, and I'm probably going to be saying the same kind of ideas as some of them, but just know that I've put my own individual thought into the way I'd like to see these features implemented, and, you know, hopefully I can discuss them in a somewhat unique way. And also, some of the things I'm going to suggest are definitely just quality of life features that should have been put into Smash Ultimate during its update cycle, but they'll still be nice to have here, while there are going to be plenty of new things that will most likely only be possible on the Switch too. Like, I'm not talking about the optical mouse sensor thing that got leaked recently while I'm recording this. You know, I just mean like power-wise and just in general stuff that you wouldn't have expected to be added to base Ultimate, if that makes sense. So let's start with the biggest thing, the characters. Now, I think there will be a dozen added to this game, mainly because it would fit in the character select screen the best, like 4 to complete the row and then add one more column, and that'll be it before I think the roster would look too squished up. And I do think it's a perfect amount to add. You know, you could have 3 main newcomers, 4 new echoes to round that number up to 10, and a challenger pass with 5 characters, and that's really all you need, I think. And while there are definitely 12 characters that I would like to see fill all of these slots, I'm not going to go into specifics about who I think should turn up and why I think they should turn up, just because that would make this video go on for way too long and would make it probably unfocused. And just in general, I am still happy getting whoever, like even if there's a new Fire Emblem character, as long as they play differently to all the others and, you know, they're a main enough character, I'm happy with them. So yeah, I think just as long as we can get a sort of newcomer pyramid shaped like this, I think all will work out perfectly. But if there is one thing I'd like to specifically see, that's a focus on making sure that as many series as possible have multiple characters to represent them. Like, I won't be too disappointed if they can't think up another Punch-Out character to add, but I just think it's nice when a franchise can have multiple representatives. It helps you feel like you can make a full team with them. It helps them feel like they can represent different aspects of a series using its characters. You know, stuff like that just makes the roster feel more whole to me and would make it feel more complete. So yeah, hopefully we can get that Octoling or Black Bull or Eggman or just anyone like that who can help fill out representation of each of these different series, because you know, I think my favourite Challenger pack was Sephiroth, just because of how much it felt like he filled in the representation of Final Fantasy VII, you know, not just with all of his songs and stage and stuff, but just him being a villain presence for that game. The other main thing to talk about with characters is their Amiibo. I still religiously collect every single one that comes out because, you know, I just think they're neat and it's fun to just level them up, collect a lot of treasure, all that sort of thing. And while it'll be nice to get a dozen more, I do think now is the best time to pull the trigger on making alternate costume Amiibo. You know, we already have Alex and Player 2 for Cloud, Corrin and Bayonetta, but I think now's the time for the Koopalings and all of the other gender variants and just every possible opportunity like that to get more Amiibo out, because I know we're sort of past the point of being like, oh, I'll just collect one of my favourite character, but I think if there's more options for each character, I think that'll just help the entire Smash Amiibo series feel more unique and, again, more representative of things. You know, even though it'll be quite hard to find shelf space for all 7 Koopalings, I'll still make the effort because I'll just really appreciate having them all. In terms of their actual functionality in game, there's not really any new modes or features I can think to add for it, because you have all you need at this point. You know, you can make whole Amiibo tournaments, or you can just train up with one, or you can send them off on their journeys. You know, I think it would be broken if you could scan one in to help you in classic mode or adventure mode or something like that. The only possible new thing I could suggest is making an entire Amiibo character. Like, you play as the figure and they have their own movesets, and like Neutral B can be a projectile, which is an Amiibo card, and stuff like that. But, you know, when we're talking about such limited slots for characters, I don't think there's a chance that you'll be able to fit an Amiibo in that regard. But anyway, let's move on to the stages. Now, if we use the same principle for adding as we did with the character select, you know, filling out the row and adding on a column, we'll get a total of 14 new stages, which in some ways feels more limiting than the 12 new characters, just because it feels like there's so many more places that need to be represented. But, you know, I think 14 is enough to play with. I just hope that we can get like a new Kirby stage that's not based on superstars, and another Splatoon stage, and a Sonic stage that's not based on a green coloured hill, and all that sort of thing. And I think especially if every non-Echo newcomer gets their own home stage, I think those 8 alone will give enough variety, leaving 6 extra stages for pretty much whatever. Although I do hope we can get a couple extra retros in those 6 extra slots. Specifically 3DS Rainbow Road, I will always be convinced didn't get into Smash Ultimate because it was just far too complex to work with, and even if they just rip its model from the Booster Course Pass and slap it in here, I think that'll work perfectly fine as a way to bring back that stage. And that Jungle Hijinks stage from Wii U with the foreground and background, I think would be nice to be brought back as well, even though obviously that gimmick would affect stage morph. But I think if you just force everyone to get back on the front layer and only then will the stage morph, I think that's a easy enough way to do it. Like, if you're going to play on stage morph on that stage, you're going to sort of expect some cheat to make sure that the gimmick can still work. So yeah, I just think that any new stage is a good stage at this point, as long as it, you know, is functional and somewhat fun to play on. Like, I'm even a proponent of 75 meters. Like, I don't think there's any real bad stages apart from like Final Destination, because it's a bit boring. But, you know, I just think that no matter what they do, it'll probably just instantly improve this stage select. The only stage or set of stages that I really don't want to see are small battlefield versions of every single stage, because Sakurai said that he was considering doing that but gave up on it when he was adding small battlefields. The main reason I don't want that is just because he would probably give it a button on the stage select screen and that would take up one of my hypothetical slots, and I don't really want that. The only way I could see an extra small battlefield being slipped in, apart from if obviously a stage like Northern Cave is added where it's just like a plain stage with a fun background, is if Miiverse is brought back. You know, using the same sort of system as the Splatoon games on Switch where it connects to a pseudo Miiverse where you can still draw all the stuff. You know, have that as an option in Games and More where you draw stuff to send out to other players and can receive other players' posts and stuff like that. I think that would be a cute little thing to implement, and I'm kind of surprised they didn't do that during Base Ultimate, but you know, by changing Miiverse into a small battlefield stage, you know, it's an even better excuse to chuck it back in. Moving on to the rule sets, there are a couple rules that I'd like to add and a couple rules that I'd like to tweak. Firstly, I'd like to add Hero's critical hit mechanic as a general rule for everyone, because I never really liked how critical hits were exclusive to Hero. Like, that's just a general RPG mechanic, and if you give it to all the RPG characters, you might as well just give it to every character at that point. So I'd have it where you can toggle between having critical hits just off, and then a 1% chance, 5%, 10%, all the way up to 100% chance of critical hits if you feel like having a quirky little quick match. Next, I think it would be cool to have a random character selection in the same way that there's a random stage selection where you can toggle which stages will or won't appear when you choose for a random stage, because I think that's such a nice, robust feature to have for the stages, and it just makes sense to have that for the characters as well. You know, there are some characters I just never want to play as, and it genuinely dissuades me from picking random because I know there's a chance that I'll get stuck with them. So to be able to toggle them off would be nice. And in the same vein, it would be cool if you could just toggle which stages and characters are in general available in specific rule sets, obviously. So if you just want like a Mario rule set, you can turn on all the Mario items and then have only the Mario stages appear in the stage select, and the same with the characters, you know. I think that would make each rule set feel more special, even though obviously you'll only want to go to them every so often when you've got such limited selections. Next, I'd like to have Coin Battle back, because it was quite rudely removed from Ultimate, so it'd just be a nice flex that this is the even more Ultimate game to have it back, even if I and probably most other players would rarely, if ever, touch it. You know, it'd still be cool to see again, I think at least. And similarly, sort of in the rule genre with the items, I think it would be cool if every single Pokeball Pokemon and every single previous assist trophy was brought back in here. Like, I don't know why they've removed specific assist trophies, apart from obviously like Lil Mac and Isabelle, so yeah, it'd be cool to get literally every single one back, you know? Make this the everything is here rather than everyone is here game. You could even have the Little Mac and Isabelle trophy functions be given to, like, King Hippo and Timmy and Tommy, say. Something along those lines. In terms of new Pokemon and assist trophies, once again, I don't really mind what's added, as long as it helps keep things even more varied. You know, you can add a lot of newer stuff, obviously, like Gen 8 and 9 Pokemon and stuff from, like, Ring Fit Adventure, or a fish from that diving game that no one remembers already, you know, stuff like that. And I'd also appreciate if there was a random assist trophy and Pokemon selection, similarly to the random stage selection, where you can tweak exactly what Pokemon and assist trophies appear, because, you know, that could make some really chaotic Pokeball and assist trophy only games, even if, you know, it means you can only have one Pokeball at a time. Just tick whatever in-game box needs to be ticked to say there can only be one Pokeball at a time. You know, it can't be that complicated to implement it fully. Moving on to rules that I'd like to see tweaked. It'd be nice if in Stage Morph you could pick more than 2 stages per match, and also maybe if you choose random, it'll randomize the stage every single time it's morphed to it. I think that's something that might have been limited by the Switch 1's power, so you know, this is going to be stuff that can really take advantage of the Switch 2. And also for some reason Stage Morph is limited to first to 1 win, like you can't do multiple matches in a row in Stage Morph for some reason, so maybe that's another Switch 2 power thing. So yeah, that'd be nice to see as well, being allowed to play 5 matches in a row in Stage Morph. The main rule that I'd like to really change though is stage hazards. Like, it really needs to be so much more versatile. Like, we see in Spirits mode the ability to just have a stage stay static in one version, you know, like all the Pokemon stadiums being in their different biomes. Like, that's the most basic addition to stage hazards we need, just picking what form of a stage you want to play on, but you should also be able to tweak which forms it can cycle through and everything like that. I think this is the best place to talk about PictoChat too, which is the only stage I'd want to cut from the game and have it replaced with PictoChat X, which it should have been in base Ultimate, but oh well. And then within the stage hazard toggles for that, you could have a PictoChat 1 and PictoChat 2 mode alongside being able to tweak whichever drawings you want to have on. You know, stuff like that feels so basic, and there are probably debug tools that allow for this, so just let the average player have them, for God's sake. Like, what possible reason could there be to not allow it? And I think it would be a real selling point for the game. Like, I know that's definitely been said before, but they could genuinely sell it on having like near 150 stages, all of which can be toggled in all sorts of various ways. That would like multiply the stage count by 10 or so. I think that would be absolutely perfect, and it's so baffling that they just don't go for it for whatever reason. So, you know, hopefully now would be the time. Moving on to the other main Smash modes, Special Smash and Smashdown are pretty much perfect as they are, you know, just add in all the rule changes I already suggested, and, you know, just add more item toggles for Special Smash and that'll be fine. With Tournament mode, I'd appreciate if the player cap was up to 256, even though that would probably be incredibly annoying to tweak every individual player or CPU. You know, if someone's up for doing that, just let them. You know, that's my main philosophy when it comes to rambling about how to improve games. Just let the players do that. My big idea comes with Squad Strike, where I'd appreciate if there was a Pokemon Trainer mode. This kinda just does what it says on the tin. You know, you pick 3 characters and you can swap between them at any time. I'd have this be done using Down Taunt rather than Down B, so that everyone still has access to all of their moves. And I also think this would be a good excuse to separate all of the Pokemon Trainer Pokemon and Pyra and Mythra, so you can pick whichever individual ones you want. And you could maybe even implement that into the main Smash mode, even though they could potentially take up 5 of the 12 newcomer slots. They can just add on another column if they want. You know, my eyesight's not that bad yet, I'll still be able to pick everyone out. Just, yeah, I think that would give a better sense of variety to Squad Strike. You know, I'm not sure if they considered that sort of mode for Squad Strike in the original Ultimate, but I imagine if they wanted to, they could probably run into technical difficulties with the Switch 1, so, you know, this is another thing that can be possible using the Switch 2. So now we've gone through all the different rules and selections, we can get to the main gameplay itself. Now, I'm not a real analyst of Smash gameplay, you know, I don't know much about frame data or hitboxes specifically, but there are so many weird little glitches and oversights that I think could be really easily fixed, but I presume they need like a whole like new system or version of the game to be able to be properly tweaked. So if you can't tell, I'd want this game to be like completely separate from Smash Ultimate. Like, you can't play it cross-gen, even with friends, everyone would have to have Smash Ultimate Special Edition to be able to play together again, which might be a bit mean, but, you know, that's the sort of necessary evil to be able to properly change how the game plays in a good way. When it comes to the characters, you know, alongside inevitable universal changes to how they all move and dodge and that sort of thing, just like everyone else, I'd love to see, you know, Mario and Ganondorf get modernized movesets. I'd love to see Luigi use the Poltergust more, you know, all that sort of thing. But alongside general overhauls to characters, I'd love to see quite a few characters just in general get new moves. Like, the best example I can think of is to give Inkling the backward side B like Terry, where she uses the roller to flick some paint, like in Splatoon. You know, I think that would be a good versatile projectile move for her that would, you know, freshen up her kit and all the other technical lingo, you know, stuff like that. So there's something new when you play even the most established characters at this point. So yeah, not exactly the most crazy ideas to make the gameplay tighter and make the characters more fun, but I'd still really appreciate it, and like I said, it'd help the game feel more new. While I'm on the subject of characters, I'd really like if everyone just had some more costumes, like, not just so we can resurrect Fire Mario and Black Yoshi, but just because it feels like so many characters have so much potential for costumes that's just never been properly tapped into. I'm not going to go into what costumes I'd like to see on every single character for now, because that would definitely make this video at least 2 hours longer, but you know, just 4 or 8 non-colour swapped costumes for every character would be very much appreciated. Unless, of course, it's too arduous for the developers, or takes too long to develop, or costs too much, or some other roadblock. But I just think all the characters deserve more costumes to just make them all feel more exciting, and I'd want all of them to be unlockable, like put a couple behind finishing a character's classic mode route and sprinkle a couple into the shop in the vault, just so it takes you a proper amount of time to unlock all the characters and in general have more things to unlock, which is always nice. And it'd also be a good incentive to try all of the different characters again after, you know, playing them when you've just unlocked them. And speaking of unlocking them, I'd want to keep the same method as Smash Ultimate. You know, every 10 minutes or so someone just gets chucked at you and hopefully you can unlock them. Obviously we'll have all the DLC characters and newcomers thrown into the mix as well, and you know, you can just plug them into the classic mode unlock grid and I'm sure it'll all work out fine. I'd still keep it so that you just have the original 8 playable at the start and you have to unlock everyone again, because while I can understand the complaint of, oh well, I already unlocked them, it's like, yeah, 6 or 7 years ago you unlocked them, I'm sure you have another day spare to do it all again at this point. Like, I'd certainly be up for it again, I don't know about anyone else. But now we're done with the main gameplay stuff, we can move on to all of the side modes, starting with Games and More, which has certainly always left me wanting more. Like, this section just feels kind of unfinished, even though it's had more stuff added to it over time. There's still so many more obvious things that I think should have been added during Ultimate's update cycle, or even just base game Ultimate. Starting with Classic Mode, the most obvious addition needed is the ability to pick between every other character's route once you finish a character's main route, just so that if you feel like playing Classic Mode as a specific character, you have a lot more variety than just the one route provided, you know? Especially with characters like Sephiroth, who have an entire boss rush. Like, that would be nice for everyone to have, or even, you know, maybe a standard boss rush mode that's not locked to one specific part of the final battle in World of Light. There's also the issue of the bonus game, which is the same race to the finish for every single character, which I think could be changed in a couple ways. First, to add upon the everything is here concept, you could add in the race to the finish courses from Melee and 64, but tweak so that you can add in the black hole thing to still chase you round and only have the one door at the end in the Melee route. And it would be nice to have a practice mode for all 3 routes as a separate option in games and more. But alongside that, I think it is finally time to bring back target tests, which obviously I'm not delusional enough to think that every single character can have an individual target test course at this point. But I think if you bring back the 5 stages from Brawl, bring back 5 stages from Melee and 64, from characters like Ice Climber and Ganondorf that can easily be completed by every single character, and have 5 new stages, you know, that's 15 for every single character, which I at least think is a good amount, and you can scatter them in as the bonus game for some specific characters, and I think that's a perfect amount of variety. And you know, if they have separate modes for it as well, it can be fun to see how quickly you can finish them or how many points you can get, and you could even have a global leaderboard for specifically that. You know, I think that would be really cool to see. Moving down to the next row, training mode is perfectly fine, and hopefully with the increased power of the Switch 2, you'll be able to spawn more items and assist trophies at once, which will be nice to see. And home run contest as well is perfectly good, except for God's sake, give Lucario just a bit of aura when he starts. Like, he's the hardest character to play as in that mode. Like, I can barely get anywhere of him because he's so bloody weak. Like, just give him 90% damage when he goes in or something. Just make it a bit of a fair contest for him. But anyway, my real issues with this mode come from Multi-Man Smash, which, like, I'm still perplexed on why and how, like, half of the modes from previous games were removed here. Like, surely putting a little timer for 15 minutes in the corner can't take that long to develop. Like, again, this is something where not too many people would get a lot out of the longer modes, but you know, if they want to play them, just let them. Like, I really can't see a reason to not have them. Also, there should absolutely be a separate Multi-Man Smash mode for Master Hand, because similarly to a Boss Rush mode, I really don't know why something that cool is locked to a specific part of the adventure mode. Like, you can flesh it out with an extra mode here, just have it unlockable when you complete adventure mode for the first time. Surely, again, it can't take that long to develop. My last major problem with this mode is All-Star Smash, which, like, I'm not against the concept of it. Like, it's a much more compelling way to do an endless mode. I just hate how this is the only representation for All-Star mode in this game. Like, yeah, if we continued with it in the same way as Brawl and Smash 4, it might as well just be a series of 10 multi-man Smash battles, but you know, I think there is a way to have a full All-Star mode and make it compelling. This is definitely one of my big ideas for this video that I've been sat on since at least early 2019. I think if you sort of combine, you know, the premise of All-Star mode with the gameplay of classic mode from 3DS, you can make a proper campaign out of All-Star mode. Like, basically, the first round is just you against one other fighter, but, you know, from a series where there is only one fighter, so like Mega Man, Pac-Man, Little Mac, just someone like that, and then you get taken straight to the rest area where you're presented with 3 paths, an easy, medium, and hard one. The easy one is just a 1v1, the medium is 1v2, and the hard is 1v3 for or a multi-man smash type of deal. The only hint as to what the battle will actually be will just be like the series logo shown in the blue, green or red on the path, and as soon as you start walking down it you get locked in and given a certain amount of healing items based on the difficulty of the battle, and then you go through the door, do the battle, rinse and repeat. And obviously the tension and decision making will come from the fact that as you go on, you get less healing items as you go down each of these paths. And say you finished all of the easy battles first, then a medium battle will take the place of an easy battle, but it'll still say it's an easy battle and you'll still get the healing items from an easy battle. Just, you know, something like that to still give the difficulty curve of reducing the amount of healing power and all of that sort of thing from previous All-Star modes. And to help extend the mode, I'd include every real character costume. So, you know, the 7 Koopalings can be one battle, or all 4 heroes can be one battle. Just, you know, every single possible option for a character you can fight against in this mode will be taken. And it'll probably result in the mode taking about an hour or 2, so I'd want you to be able to like save and quit in the middle of it. Like, I want this to feel like a proper campaign that you can chip away at, especially if you have to play as every single character, because 2 of their costumes are locked behind completing the mode. Like, that's the sort of thing that really appeals to me with Smash, because yeah, a criticism about a lot of one-player modes is that all you do is fight, but that's what Smash is, it's just fighting. Like, some modes will have a good twist on it, but some modes are just pure fighting, and that's okay, as long as they, you know, don't act like they're that much more than fighting. So yeah, I just feel like if you can make All-Star mode feel like a proper journey through the roster, you know, even chopping up different series into relevant clumps of characters so you fight against them at different parts of the campaign, I just think that that would be a brilliant way to bring back the mode and make it feel impactful. And I think it could be one of the main selling point new modes of this version of the game. Like, everyone is back and you can fight them all at once over a couple hours, or some more compelling tagline. But anyway, let's move on to the last row. There's obviously nothing to really change about the Amiibo mode, because it does what it says on the tin. It's just about sorting out all of your different figures. I will say it would be nice if, instead of needing to go all the way to the Amiibo mode from the Smash mode to cash out all the rewards from a fun play session with the Amiibo, that you can just do it straight from the Smash menu. Like, it'll pop up a little box saying, do you want to cash in your treasure now, or something like that, so it's a lot less faff. Mii Fighter mode is also perfect as it is, although, you know, it would be nice to have a few more options for voices and special moves, and in an ideal world I would like to see a couple more types of Mii Fighters, you know, a mage type and a sort of beastly type I think would be nice, but there's probably no time for that in development. Obviously there is the tricky thing with some of the DLC costumes, where all of the third-party Smash 4 Mii costumes came back only as DLC, whereas the first-party ones were included in base Ultimate, so no idea if that has to happen again. You know, worst case scenario, they'll be purchasable from day one as DLC, but if you have them as DLC for Ultimate, they can transfer over from there or something, you know. And anything worse than that would just feel weird at this point. Like, I don't even know why that had to be an issue in base Ultimate, but, you know, hopefully that can be moved past now. Lastly, while I do enjoy Stage Builder mode, there's obviously a lot of room for improvement. Like, we need way more backgrounds, because when there's only 12 of them, it feels like there are only 12 different types of stages. You know, it's probably just a me thing, but still, who doesn't love more backgrounds either way? And it would be good to have more hazards as well, like, not just generic ones, but ones plucked straight from stages, like the giant ball from Distant Planets. Like, that would have to be a stage template in and of itself, like small plus ball, because you can't exactly just drag and drop a ball anywhere on the stage. But, you know, sometimes limiting what you can do brings out even more creativity. So, yeah, it'll still be a positive experience, I think. The only other addition that I'd really like to see is just more robust timing features, like not just if you flick a lever a thing will rotate. Like, it'll rotate for 5 seconds and then stop for 5 seconds and then keep rotating. You know, that sort of thing that will make stages feel a lot more dynamic and will help people possibly create moving stages with different scenes and settings. You know, that would be lovely. And again, due to the hopeful power of the Switch 2, you'll be able to add in more shapes and gizmos before you hit the limit for 8-player and overall. So yeah, just I think any additions to Stage Builder would be really appreciated, but I think even if there's just an increased shape limit, it'll feel a lot more in depth. So yeah, the only way is up with that mode. Moving on to the vaults, there are several modes here that I just don't need to talk about because they're perfectly self-explanatory, but I will say with the movies mode, it would be nice if they included all of the reveal trailers from both base Ultimate and this new version, mainly because it'd mean that there are more than like 6 movies, which would be nice. They may be unable to do that due to complications with having songs that don't actually appear in the game used in the trailers, which is understandable in that case, but still, if they can include a reveal trailer, I hope that they do. With the sounds mode, I'd appreciate if in the character voices section you were allowed to scroll between all of the different languages in the game, just because, you know, they're in the game, so why not just let us have access to them without actively going and changing what language the game is being played in, you know? Hopefully there'll be hundreds of new songs added, just like with base Ultimate. You know, I don't know what magic they did for the new compression method in Ultimate, but hopefully the increased storage, power, capacity, everything of the Switch 2 and its cartridges or whatever should hopefully mean we can get several hundred more, which I do hope can encompass a wider selection of series and like sub-series. Like, we need more Mario Party, tennis and kart songs, and say with Sega, who are clearly a happy partner of Smash Bros and Nintendo as a whole, like, why not have some songs from some of their other franchises? You know, you could chuck them in to the Sonic stages or just the other stages, but just having them at all would help Smash Bros feel like more of a library for all of gaming rather than just a series with characters, if that makes sense. But anyway, moving on to the challenges mode, I do feel like this was just a bit naff in base Ultimate. Like, I do appreciate the sort of comic book panel styling and all of the different modes having separate screens of challenges, but it never feels like they've really got off the ground with the types of challenges that you do. Like, all of the basic ones, like get a KO with an item, or do a final smash, or even get 7650 points with Pac-Man's final smash, they're all fine, but like with Smash mode alone, you have like beat a level 9 CPU in a timed battle, beat a level 5 and level 3 CPU in a timed battle, beat a level 9 opponent in a stock battle, beat a level 5 and 3 opponents. It's just over and over again, just stuff that is just procedural. Like, it's not stuff you're gonna accidentally bump into, it's just stuff you need to be like, right, let's go, set it to level 5, get on with the battle, yay, I did it. Like, we need more exciting challenges. I like to hope that with just the stuff that was added to base Ultimate during its update cycle, and with the modes that I've suggested here, there'll be enough interesting scenarios to create entirely new challenge cards for every single mode in the game. But you know, if there's just a few more that's like complete Squad Strike in Pokemon Trader mode with all 3 Star Fox characters, just more oddly specific things like that that you're willing to go and do, because it actually sounds like a quirky scenario rather than a checkbox. Just plenty more stuff like that is all this mode needs. Moving on to the online mode, yeah, just sort of needs to be a bit better, doesn't it? Rollback netcode is something that I'm apparently supposed to say at this point, but I don't really know much about it. To be honest, I feel like I've spent more time with the shared content online than actually fighting online. So yeah, all I'll say with shared content is that it would be nice if I don't know, they just sort of let you filter the stages more based on what their background is or who made them, and just sort of everything like that. Just make the shared content system feel more robust and thoroughly searchable. So moving on to spirits mode, I'll start with the spirit board, which is a perfectly serviceable mode. It would be nice if you were able to unlock a couple more pairs of spirits on screen at once, just so that there's that bit more variety, especially because the DLC spirits from base Ultimate are probably going to be chucked into the pool of spirits that can appear here anyway, so you're going to need more room to represent more spirits. And it would be good if you could collect more than 99 of each of the support items, just because I felt like I hit the limit way too fast, especially with all of those bonus spirit event weekends they did and all of the stuff that you get just from playing through the game. I feel like 999 is a much more understandable limit for those supporting items. Moving on to the DLC spirit boards, I don't inherently think that this only has to come back if this new version of the game has a challenger pass. I think this can be a little section for every single fighter in the game to have their own little spirit board. Like, obviously all the spirits in there would be taken from what's already in the game, apart from maybe like one per board that can be exclusive to it. Like, again, taken from the selection in the game, but you know what I mean, just something to make all these boards feel that bit more special. Obviously each of them would be themed to the character, like Mario could have all his power-ups, Donkey Kong could have all the Kongs, and you could just have the scrolling background be like a home stage for each of the characters, you know, something so that this isn't too resource intensive. You know, I just think that something like this would be a nice way to let you get to know each of these characters a bit more just by seeing who they associate with. And if these spirit boards are a reward, say, for finishing a character's classic and all-star campaigns, you know, it can feel like a little extra bonus of playtime related to this character for slogging through a couple hours with them. You know, not slogging through, that's a bit harsh, but you know what I mean, just like an extra completion bonus, you know, something to keep you going. Next is the collection mode, where there's, again, not really much to tweak about it. Although I would really appreciate if they added in a little sort of photo mode with the spirits, akin to the party card system from Mario Party Jamboree, where you just sort of put the spirits on in whatever pattern you fancy. You could tell a little story, you could make a little joke, you could spell out a little word, something like that. I'm surprised that this wasn't a thing in the base game, but who knows, maybe they got into trouble because certain companies don't want people to manipulate their characters to be stood in certain inappropriate, potentially, ways, you know what I mean? The other thing that I want to talk about here comes from the inventory section, and this is another one of those things that I've been sat on for years that I just really want to say out loud and talk about. You know how they added in the ability to rematch spirits by hitting X when you are having a proper look at them? You could put that on Sephiroth's spirits, except instead of a rematch, it takes you back to the Sephiroth challenge. You know, one of the coolest parts of base Ultimate's update cycle that was only available for a few days before completely disappearing forever. You know, that would be nice to see again. Like, obviously it's not the most complex or in-depth mode, it's just a 1v1 stamina match against Sephiroth, but just the fact that it had its own little menu and it keeps track of how fast you beat it on each of the different difficulties, it'd just be nice to sneak it in here, pretty much as a little Easter egg, you know. You might not even want to announce it before release, just, oh, why can you rematch Sephiroth? Oh my god, Sephiroth, you know, just fun little Easter eggy stuff. But anyway, let's move on to the final mode of the whole game, World of Light. Now, I did really enjoy my time with World of Light. You know, it's fun to explore the world, even if it's not the most visually compelling. You know, all of the different pseudo puzzle bits where you have to find the right spirit to build a bridge or cross a river. I loved pretty much everything about this mode. I just wish it could go on even longer. Like, if it's going to be a 30-hour mode already, why not stretch it out for a couple more dozen hours? The easiest way to do this would just be sprinkling all the spirits added during Ultimate's update into the already existing world, which would make it take longer to traverse, but you know, that's just sort of World of Light in a nutshell. But obviously the way cooler thing to do would be to add in new areas. You know, specifically the Dark Realm. Just looking at its map, you can easily shove in at least 3 new areas, and with all of the different new franchises that were added in during Ultimate's DLC, you know, I'd absolutely take a good explore of Mementos or Garruk Muck Monastery, you know. I think those sorts of areas just scream potential for a compelling World of Light sub-area. And just by adding in that, at least I would feel compelled to play through World of Light again. Like, yeah, I would absolutely prefer a new version of Subspace Emissary or something like that, but if we are just getting Smash Ultimate Special Edition, all we're going to get in terms of a bolstered adventure mode is just more areas in World of Light, so I'm more than happy to take that personally. It would also be cool if more cutscenes could be added in, although I'm not absolutely sure where the best place for them would be without them feeling kind of needless. You know, maybe if there was a 20-second introduction to each of the different sub-areas, you know, just showing Kirby and Mario running in being like, whoa, a place. Like, that's really the biggest issue with inserting more cutscenes. It's too much effort to properly account for every possible combination of characters you could have unlocked up to that point, so it would probably just have to be Kirby and Mario and sort of forget about everyone else, because those are the only 2 characters you can confirm you'll have by that point of reaching every single sub-area. But still, you know, it would be nice to see all of these areas in more glory. So yeah, those are all of my ideas for World of Light, and indeed the entire game. It would be cool if there could be one big new mode, like the return of Smash Run, or something new that I'm not creative enough to think of myself, but I don't know, I think if you just refine what's already there and add in like non-resource intensive new modes, I think that's all I would need to feel compelled to basically buy this game again. You know, just the whole unlocking stuff process of a Smash Bros game I find compelling enough as it is. Like, I reset my Smash 3DS game about 5 or 6 times when I was a kid, just because I enjoyed playing through all of the modes in that game that much that I'd wanted to just do it again for the sheer joy of it. You know, like I said, none of this was meant to be a hardline prediction for what I want out of Smash Bros on the Switch 2. This was just sort of ideas for the refined Smash Ultimate that, you know, I could have probably talked about at any time, but this just felt like the most appropriate. And if by the time this is uploaded we do have an announcement for the next Smash game, you know, I'm not gonna feel all that silly, because I can just cheekily retitle it like what I would add into Smash Ultimate, and, you know, hopefully wouldn't be too conspicuous apart from when I talk about the Switch 2. But yeah, if you have any questions or concerns, do let me know. Just with the potential of all of these different costume-based Amiibo, it presents new opportunities for displaying my Amiibo. Like, if there's a brand new wedding Bowser themed Amiibo, I can make both of them hold hands or something nice. But bye bye, have a nice day.